Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. Today, we're being joined by Laura Pennington, author of How to Start Your Own Freelance Business. Laura, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Are you ready to get started?
Yes, I am.
All right. Question number one. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
Not to get overwhelmed by the process. The whole concept of writing a book is a really big project, and it's easy to look at all the different moving parts that go into it, even just in the writing end of things, aside from all the other marketing, landing an agent, or deciding whether to go traditional versus self-publishing. It's very easy to get overwhelmed with that. So just start with some of the smaller steps and make it part of your daily schedule that you're taking some type of action towards publishing your book. But don't, put on your to-do list, write book. That's way too much to think about. So break it down into those smaller steps.
And what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
I think it's finding the right place for your potential book, where that market is going to be. And for me, it was, I've been working as a writer for the 7 years before publishing a book of my own, but I wanted to make sure that I had a really sellable concept when I started pitching to agents, and something that would appeal to agents as well as to publishing houses. So getting feedback from industry professionals and pitching a few different ideas really helped me narrow down on the one idea that I wanted to move forward with.
Well, let's talk about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you have used in your book launch that has worked well.
One marketing strategy that's been very helpful for me is signing up for Help a Reporter Out, which 3 times a day they send me reporters and media specialists who are looking for quotes. I've been featured in 6 different publications and landed a full-length feature in Thrive Global just by staying aware of those emails and by responding with really thoughtful pitches when somebody needed some insight about something to do with working from home or freelancing. And it was a really natural fit for my book and additional publicity.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because, they typically, it's like 3 times a day, and it's Harrow. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's correct.
So tell us a little bit more about that process. So, because as you know, we all get a ton of emails every day. So you get those emails from Harrow. What is your process in regards to finding the right fit and then pitching that publication?
So I love just signing up for the emails is free. So there's no cost for you to do that. I like to do a quick scan, and I have a specific alert set for their business and finance section. So they'll send to you the overall email newsletter, which has it broken down into like biotech, parenting, lifestyle, different sorts of things. I look only at the business and finance queries, and they'll tell you what times of day they send it. It's like 6, 1, and 6 on Eastern time usually is when they come. And I just open it really quickly and scan the top of the email to see if there's anything that's potentially relevant to my book. So even things that could be about productivity, for example, or remote work would still be relevant to my book about freelance writing. So I write really thoughtful and quick responses. If I see anything that catches my interest, I kind of stop what I'm doing right away and write a pitch to that particular reporter, because there's a lot of people on the email list, but if you can get in really quickly with a helpful, meaningful soundbite, they're far more likely to use the information that you send.
So could you tell us an example of one of these emails that you've sent? Because it sounds like it's very clear, concise, and that you have a very clear process with this.
Yes. So one of them that came through, I did not know the publication. Sometimes they'll have it listed, sometimes they won't. It ended up being U.S. News and World Report, a freelance contributor who was putting together an article on legit work from home jobs. And so I responded right away and talked about my experience as a freelance writer, and then kind of added like a bonus tip in there, like for anyone who's thinking about working from home but doesn't know where to start, being a virtual assistant is a great entry point because most people have VA or administrative assistant skills from a past job or volunteer position. And then when he wrote back to kind of ask some further questions, I also added him on LinkedIn, the freelance contributor, and found a place that we had in common. We actually lived in the same city and didn't realize it. So it kind of helped build that personalization of my pitch as well by following up with him on LinkedIn, and also so that I could be considered for future features when he writes for different publications as well.
Well, speaking of books, I'd like to know, what is your favorite book and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
My favorite book in the nonfiction world, what really started me down the path of reading various books and tools, was The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. Now, a lot of the information in there might not be relevant for every business owner, but he recommends a lot of other resources that can be really helpful. The best book I've read recently is Company of One by Paul Jarvis, which is all about not scaling your business just for the sake of scaling and being a really successful solopreneur while also limiting your business growth. So those are my two favorites.
I love that. Company of One. That is such a great hook.
Yeah, it is. It's great. And he's an actual freelancer as well, kind of made the decision to scale his business back down. And it's a really interesting perspective because we hear a lot about grow, 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 hustle, 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 but that's not right for everyone.
And I'm so glad you brought up that point, because when you hear from other entrepreneurs, you always hear scale, 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 and you don't necessarily need that. If you're doing, you're enjoying what you're doing, it's a good fit, you don't have to take over the world. If you're enjoying staying in your lane and doing your thing, why not? You know what I mean?
Exactly. I think that's what's great about entrepreneurship, is deciding what's really going to work for you and your company, and doesn't have to mirror what everyone else is doing.
Absolutely. And for a final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
My favorite quote is from my childhood hero, sharpshooter Annie Oakley, and it's, "Aim at a high mark. You might not hit it the first time, but eventually you will succeed."
Excellent. Well, Laura, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
You can check out my website and my advanced freelancing podcast at betterbizacademy.com.
Excellent. Well, thank you once again for being on the show, Laura, and I wish you all the best in your author journey.
All right. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how you can be featured in our brand new Get Published business book, go to getpublishedpodcast.com.